Yo, what's up guys? You better strap in because I normally don't do a B patch update whenever they implement like a mini patch or a hotfix, but just because I know a lot of people have been frustrated with what the last patch was like, I just need to let you guys know that they released a mid-patch update. So this is the patch 10.21b. And let's get into some of the changes and let's see if they actually will fix things and what we can predict for this next week. So balance changes, a combination of recent changes to multiple traits and champions created a truly monstrous divine comp. We're nerfing a few of the outliers, giving this composition just too much strength. Akali is also getting touched just to make sure she doesn't reign supreme in the aftermath of these changes. So Akali, I don't know if you guys watched the recent video, even though we got a little lucky with getting Akali 3 and getting all the items for her, you guys saw how completely broken she is, so I'm glad that they did touch this because I'm assuming ninjas are going to be played a lot. But we also can't forget about the Zed ninja composition as well. That one was with getting RFC on Zed, getting a QSS on Zed, getting a Runons on him, and then a bunch of Lockets, a bunch of Zeeks. That's build still going to be pretty strong, in my opinion. But let's look at the actual changes. So Adept attack speed debuff duration, and this is getting nerfed. I talked about this in the last patch. I did not think that this trait needed to be buffed. Again, we could remember our experiences from the public beta environment when Set 4 was in its very first stages. Adept was one of the strongest synergies at that time, and it only got weaker recently because of Quicksilver Sash. Everyone started building Quicksilver Sash. So once they nerfed Quicksilver Sash, there wasn't really a reason to buff Adept, and I'm glad that they are reverting these changes. Like, all the units are very strong. We have Shen, Aurelia, and Yone. All of them are super, super good champions. Aurelia has a big disarm. Shen taunts people and is super tanky. He's also like a 4-cost tank, and he's also a mystic. And then Yone, he's obviously a legendary unit, so he's always going to be good just to throw in randomly. So this trait, there's just like no downside to this trait, right? All the units are good, and the trait's pretty good. So makes perfect sense that they pull this back a little bit. Now onto the changes you guys actually care about. Divine damage reduction is being reduced from 50% reduction to 40%, and same with their true damage, 50% to 40%. But I don't really think they need to do this. Might be a little controversial saying that, but instead of Statikk Shiv dealing bonus damage to crowd control or shielded targets, it is now only shielded targets. So I feel like since they nerfed this, which was one of the main pieces of the WARWICK composition, and I don't know if you guys knew, but like you needed like the trifecta to make WARWICK work. You needed Quicksilver, Statikk Shiv, and WARWICK 2 to win every game. But if you don't have all three pieces, the comp kind of wasn't that strong. Like WARWICK 2 alone isn't really an issue. Statikk Shiv alone isn't really an issue. It was a little strong, but nothing like too crazy. And then like Quicksilver alone isn't the issue, but the three in combination created like this Exodia. And I feel like that was the main reason why Divines were too strong. So I don't really think they needed to do this change. I think they're just doing it just to get people to stop talking about it, because people attribute WARWICK with Divines and they're like, oh, if we don't nerf Divines, people are going to throw a fit. And that's why I'm guessing they're doing this. So I don't think it was like actually necessary, but we'll go ahead and see. I hope there are still some other Divine comps, just like not the same exact one that we've been seeing and not as dominant. So Akali 5-point strike damage is being nerfed, so it's the same at level 1 Akali, same at level 2, and then it's getting nerfed by 12.5% at level 3. Completely understandable. She still kills a lot of stuff at 2-star, but if you do get her 3-star, she was pretty much one-shotting everything. Again, you could look in my past video just to see how strong it actually is. I do hope that other ninja comps are still playable as well. I think this will still be perfectly fine. Locket of the Iron Solari, this is the last change that we didn't go over yet, and this is a nerf at 1-star, 2-star, and 3-star, and then it's the same at 4-star. So the most important number to look at is this one, because you never really put a Locket on a 1-star unit, and you never really get to 3 stars that often. So this is about a 16% nerf. Nothing too big, nothing too huge, but it is a nerf nonetheless. And Locket was really good because it's a really strong early game item, and it bought you a lot of time. And last patch, the meta was all about whoever found WARWICK first, so the name of the game was just survive as long as possible. So the early and mid game were super important compared to other patches that we played in the past. So Locket was by far the best item. However, since that's not going to be the case anymore, I'd love to see if these changes were maybe a bit too hard. Maybe they could have gone down to a 400 shield instead of 375, or maybe go down to 425, because since the meta is going to be changing and maybe the early and mid game aren't going to be as super important as it was in patch 10.21. We might not have needed this, but I do feel like Locket was being played a little too much last patch, but again, it's a product of the meta. If the meta is all about just living until you find Warwick 2, the early game is going to be the only thing that matters. What I'm excited to see is if Statikk Shiv still could be viable in other compositions. Because again, if it only does damage to shielded targets, that means like Dazzler doesn't do anything. It's just going to be used as like a counter to shields, but you never really build any shield counter items in my experience and like my whole time playing TFT. I don't know if you guys even knew this, but in last set, in set 3, Cassiopeia, she reduced shielding for enemies. And I can't recall one time where I faced someone with a lot of shields, even in a protector meta where they get a ton of shields, where I'm like, oh, let me put Cassiopeia in because she's going to be the shield counter. I think it's going to be the same thing with Statikk Shiv. I don't think that people are actually going to use it as a shield counter. They're going to build Statikk Shiv if it's like a strong early game item or if they have a unit with a lot of attack speed, such as like Callista with Duelist. So I'm not really sure why they kept this in. I wish they just removed all of this and maybe just buff the damage on Statikk Shiv or maybe introduce a new effect entirely. Because again, if you guys in set 3 at one point wanted to counter shields by playing a Cassiopeia, let me know down in the comments below. But pretty much everyone I've talked to, they didn't really care about Cassiopeia as like a shield counter because no one really cared about any of that at all. Like no one purposely counters shields. Like it's only good against certain compositions and you have to commit a whole item to do that, where instead you could build something that's like best in slot for one of your champions or build a support item instead. So it's just a little confusing to me why they kept this in, but we'll go ahead and see if people actually use it as a shield counter, because then maybe we could have a new like tactic in our arsenal that we could add into the game. But overall, I think the meta is just going to be a bunch of comps that we played last patch, which were a lot of the one-offs, such as like sharpshooters, such as Enlightened, such as the ninja comps. Some people were playing mages. I saw a lot of Namis with Luden's Echo. That was a pretty fun build to watch. There are a lot of duelists. Duelists might actually be really strong because I don't think they got hurt too much. The only thing that really affected them was like some parts of the divine changes because they run 2 divine. Adept maybe hurts them a tiny bit and maybe like a tiny bit on the Statikk Shiv, but they can use a bunch of different items that are not Statikk Shiv in order to make their composition work. So maybe duelist is going to be pretty good too. But keep in mind, there are going to be a lot of other compositions that might see play now because maybe they were unplayable because of the way Divine had certain power spikes. So let me know what your predictions for those are in the comments below. And yeah, again, I don't do B patch updates ever. This is my first one, but like this patch was so critical and I know a lot of people were quitting the game because they did not like the patch. And I just want to let you guys know that if that was you, the game is playable now. But if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead, like the button below. And if you are new, go ahead and subscribe. Helps me out a lot. And I will come out with the meta snapshot on Friday, maybe even a little earlier since I know the patch came out on Monday instead of the usual Wednesday. So we'll see how the meta shapes up, but expect an update latest Friday, hopefully a little earlier even. But yeah, I'll see you guys later.